Hi, I'm Tabor Aiken, Public Information Officer for the Lakeville Fire Department. Welcome to another edition of On Call. The goal of this program is to educate and inform the citizens of Lakeville about how Lakeville's all-volunteer fire department trains and responds to emergencies. Let's take a look at what's coming up on this edition of On Call. I'll meet with Assistant Training Officer Todd Munson and learning about building construction and why it's important for firefighters to have a background in building construction. On Chief's Corner, Lakeville Fire Chief Scott Nelson will give us some information on the Fire Investigator Award. On Ask Tabor, we'll talk about replacement of fire hoses. I'm going to take a look at ice training on Did You Know? Scratch the Fire Dog will take us on another adventure, and we'll wrap things up with Consumer Safety Checklist. I'm here at Lakeville Station 2 with Todd Munson. Todd, welcome to On Call.
Welcome. Yep.
And you're the Assistant Training Officer for the Lakeville Fire Department.
Correct.
And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about building construction today. So why don't we start by first having you give us a little bit of background on your career, because there's a pretty strong connection there with your career and building construction.
Yep. Been in the construction business for about 29 years, and I work as a construction superintendent.
Okay. And you've been out in your role as the Assistant Training Officer, meeting with firefighters at the 4 different stations in Lakeville, doing some training on building construction. Now, I know I'm guilty of this as a firefighter, and I'm going to guess that the general public doesn't think about building construction as something that firefighters are engaged in as part of their training. We think of, crawling through mock structure fires. We think of doing some medical training, setting up ladders, running hose, etc.
Yes.
But building construction is a very important part of what we do. Why is this something that we need to engage in for training?
Building construction has a bunch of different aspects built into it. One is you have to be safe when you go into a building. You have to know what you're going into, and you also have to know what you're going to deal with in a fire.
Okay. So when somebody calls, say 911, they speak with the dispatcher, that dispatcher is going to take down some information. Possibly one of the things would be what
type of building.
Type of building are you in? So when we think about it as firefighters, what are the different types of buildings or types of construction that we're thinking about?
There's 5 basic types of building construction.
Okay.
There's type 1, which is concrete walls, concrete floors, concrete roofs, schools, hospitals, those type of things. That's type 1.
Okay.
Type 2 is concrete walls, steel rafters with a roof, but that's basically strip centers. Type 2 and 3, the only basic big difference is the hour rating that they have inside them.
And when you say hour rating, you're talking about burn time?
Correct. The type 2 has minimum 2 hours.
Okay.
And then when you go to type 3, that could have a minimum of an hour.
So looking at the outside of a type 2 or type 3 construction, you're probably not going to be able to tell.
You wouldn't be able to tell, but again, if we go snooping, then we find out what's there.
And in firefighter language, we would think of snooping as a pre-plan, where we go into those different buildings and we take a look at what's inside. We look at where the exits are, where the construction is, what the type of material inside the contents are, and know that before we get called for an emergency there.
Right. So now we're to type 3.
Okay.
Now there's also type 4, which is called heavy timber. And a lot of that is basically churches and old warehouses in downtown Minneapolis. So Lakeville really doesn't have basically all for type 4 is just churches. Then you go to type 5, which everybody's accustomed with, and that's residential.
Great. Well, I'm thinking that the next step in our conversation would be to go take a look at some of those, because we can certainly talk about what they are, but having a visual of what they look like might make things even easier.
It's a lot easier to see and see what you're doing.
Terrific. Well, how about if we head out on the road and go see what we can find?
All right, let's do it.
Okay, Todd, we're at our first stop on the tour of different types of construction in the city of Lakeville, and we're at a house, which is, I'd say, pretty safe for most folks, because this is what we think of when we think of construction, the place that we live.
Yep.
So what type of construction do we have here?
Tabor, this would be type 5 construction. Basically what we have is wood studs supporting wood roof and wood floors for the construction of a house.
Okay, so from a firefighter's perspective, what's important to know about this type of construction?
If you're a firefighter and we have a fire in this particular home, what I would look for pulling up is if you see the large windows up above, first indication that would probably be a bedroom.
Okay.
So if there's somebody missing, we'd be trying to attack that.
Okay.
Either going in the front door and trying to go up if there's someone missing.
Okay.
So, and then the fire load in this particular building, again, it boils down to contents and
Okay.
how hot the fire is,
Okay.
is how long this building will stand.
And we're going to look at some other buildings on our tour here, but is one of the implications with this building that the stuff that the building is made out of, as well as the contents, are all going to burn?
Yeah, this whole building will burn.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Well,
All right.
we're going to keep exploring some different types of construction, so off we go.
All right, thanks.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Todd, we're outside of All Saints Catholic Church. What type of construction do we have here?
Tabor, we have two types of construction here. We have type 4, which is the sanctuary area, and then type 1 for the school area.
Okay, so let's talk with type 4 first. What makes that a type 4 construction?
Type 4 is heavy timber, which is glue lambs and wood roof.
Okay.
And a consideration for fire, if ever a fire gets started in the type 4, we're going to need help to try to get that fire out.
Okay. And then how about the type 1?
Type 1 is really safe. Everything structural is non-combustible.
Okay.
So that gives basically 4 hours minimum for everybody to get out. And it's just, again, the contents, the paper, the
Okay.
books, all that stuff would contribute to the fire load.
Okay, terrific. Now, All Saints being a church with that type 4 construction, is that universal for all churches?
No, Tabor, it's not. Every church is different in Lakeville area here.
Okay.
So some are type 5, some could be type 3. Just depends upon the type of the building and what materials are used inside.
Terrific. All right, we're back on the road again.
All
Todd.
right, let's go find another one.
Here we go. Okay, Todd, we're on the move again. We're down here by Dodd and County Road 50. We got a couple of strip malls behind us here with some occupied, some not. What type of construction is this?
This would be type 2, Tabor. Basically concrete walls and steel deck bar joists.
Okay, so talk a little bit about the implications to firefighters with this type of construction, Todd. What's going to burn, what's not going to burn?
Basically, there's really nothing on the exterior that's going to burn on this building. It's the contents that we're worried about. If you look around here, there's Teresa's and there's the liquor store and all the stuff. The contents inside would create the fire load.
Okay, excellent. All right, we're ready to move on and find
Yes.
another type of
Find
construction?
another building.
All right, here we go. Okay, Todd, we've made our last stop here. We're outside Lakeville North High School. Very large construction. What type do we have?
This would be type 1 construction. What we do here is the masonry walls, concrete floors, concrete roofs, so that everything as far as structure is non-combustible.
Okay.
So what helps with that, it slows down the fire, make sure that we can have a chance to get the mass of people. Like in a single family home, we're only dealing with up to 6 or 7. Here we're dealing with 2,000, trying to get them out safely.
Sure, trying to get all those people out.
Yes.
So let's talk about that for a moment. Let's talk about priorities, because we've talked this entire segment about the building construction, but what are the priorities for a firefighter when they're showing up on a fire? What priorities, or how are we operating?
Our operating is safety for the people.
Okay.
That's number 1.
Yep.
Get everybody out. The number 2 is safety for the firefighters. We don't want to send them in so that we can bring them out and send them home. Next is we're looking at exposures for the buildings for the surrounding area.
Okay.
Here we're not going to have really anything to deal with. And then the next one is to put the fire out.
Terrific. Well, there's definitely a lot of information involved in all of this building construction, and we've done just a brief overview of some of the pieces involved and taken a look at the different types of construction in the city of Lakeville.
Yes.
I know you're out doing training with the different stations and getting the firefighters a lot more in-depth information with that training piece.
Yep.
So I just want to say thank you for joining us on Call and getting us that snapshot and a brief look at why building construction is important for firefighters.
Anytime.
So,
thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Todd.
Yep.
We're trying something new on Call. I'm inviting you to write in with a question about the Lakeville Fire Department, and if we select your question as one to read on the air, we'll read it on the air, answer it, and for your troubles, we'll send you a Lakeville Fire Department t-shirt. Use the email address on the screen to send me your question, or do it the old-fashioned way and write it out, put a stamp on it, and mail it to Lakeville Fire Department, 20190 Holyoke Avenue, Lakeville, Minnesota 55044.
This is your fire hazard makeover. Let's go.
Dan, do you know these people?
Did you know most fire casualties happen at home? Let's check it out.
Clean up debris outside to prevent accidental fire as well as arson.
Clean up around your water heater. Dryer lint catches fire very easily.
Store flammables in safety-approved containers, up and out of the reach of children.
And cleaning up cluttered workspaces helps prevent fires.
Don't overload outlets. Use a power strip if needed. Your home has just had the fire hazard makeover.
Here's your check it out checklist.
Now you can do this too.
Check it out!
Did you know that the Lakeville Fire Department does annual ice rescue training? This is ongoing training for firefighters and new training for rookie firefighters. We recently took advantage of the warm weather to get firefighters out on the ice before it melted and do a little ice rescue training. Winter water emergencies typically take place in the fall when the ice is beginning to form and is thin, or in the spring when the ice is beginning to melt and is also thin. So we took advantage of receding ice on Lake Marion to get some firefighters out there and participate in this training. As you might expect during an ice rescue emergency, the water is slightly above freezing in temperature, and therefore firefighters who are doing the rescue are wearing Mustang suits or dry suits. And a rescue is for a person that's in the water that's still above the water. If a person should drown or go up below the water, then we're going to ask the Dakota County Sheriff's Office for assistance, and we would change the name of the operation from a rescue to a recovery. Our hope is that we don't have to respond to an ice rescue and use this training, but if such an emergency should occur, we're ready to assist.
Hi, Chief Scott Nelson here with another segment of Chief's Corner. Standing with me today are my Fire Marshal Brian Karstensen and Detective Dave Watson, our special guest from the Police Division. And both of them just recently won an award, and they're here to tell us all about the award and why they got it and what it means to the city of Lakeville. So gentlemen, who would like to begin?
Go ahead, Dave. I can start. Brian and I are both members, Chief, of the Minnesota International Arson Investigators Association, and throughout the course of our working together through a joint effort that we started, how many years ago, Brian?
5 years ago?
About 5 years ago, we've had a dramatic increase in our success rate and prosecution, and my supervisors, along with yourself, were kind enough to recommend Brian and I for the 2008 Investigator of the Year Award, which we subsequently received a couple weeks ago up in St. Cloud. We had 3 major cases this year. We had a serial arsonist that was fairly active in Lakeville, within a 24-hour period, burned numerous vehicles and houses, and we were able to make an arrest on that. We also had a fairly significant fire in an apartment complex that was started by gunpowder. We were able to obtain confessions on that one, and kind of an interesting case that we also had was a stolen vehicle from the state of California that was recovered on County Road 70. The vehicle was burned at such a point where we couldn't obtain any good VIN numbers, but through good police work and a group effort, we were able to locate a VIN. We were able to track that back to the state of California, and we were able to make an arrest on that case too. So 3 good cases, and once again, thanks to the fire department and the police department working collaboratively, it's been a great success.
Brian, could you expand a little bit on that collaborative effort? A lot of our public may not understand what your role typically is versus the police, and when do you hand things off to the police department, and how does that all work? What roles does the fire department play, and what role does the police department play?
I think the luxury of it is the big change that we've seen over the years, and what's making this such a better operation is we're working together from the get-go. In the last many years, it's always been that fire thing where the fire marshal or fire investigator pretty much handled the situation from the very onset and took it to the point where if arson was involved or believed to be involved, at that point you would get the police department involved, and it was just too late. There was too much information that was missed because you're dealing with that crime, possible crime on every fire that we respond to. And there was just too much. It's just such a better effort with both of you involved right from the onset, because obviously David's looking at different things than I am. I'm more on the true cause and origin, and he kind of looks over and is looking at that big picture. Are there other outside pieces that are missing? And that's where the whole collaboration of coming together really has been successful.
And I would suspect that an extra set of eyes as you dig through the rubble is certainly helpful, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Okay. Can you just expand a little bit on your education as far as what you've done to qualify you as a fire investigator or cause determination, and Dave, you as well?
Okay. The brunt of my training was done through the BCA, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. They, along with the joint effort of the State Fire Marshal's Office, puts on a series of classes that get into the nuts and bolts of arson investigation. I've taken several classes. Actually, the conference where we won our award this year does an annual training session, 3-day training session as well. That's always outstanding education. And then again, finishing my degree work in fire science is the brunt of my education.
And I'll piggyback off Brian here. I've gone through that same series as far as the BCA arson courses go. There's a 3-course series. I also was lucky enough to go out to the National Fire Academy in 2007 for an advanced arson school, which was outstanding, and have just tried to learn from all these fire guys that do a great job every time we're out on a scene, and try to pick up little tidbits based on their fire experience.
Well, I can say from the fire side, we certainly appreciate your help from the police department, and we truly do work together as a team. As a matter of fact, it's really unique, the fact that the award is typically given to an individual, and this year the Investigators Association deviated from their standard protocol and felt it so strongly that these two work together such as a team that they gave the award to both of you, which we're very proud of, and quite frankly, we're very lucky in Lakeville here to have such expertise when we have the fires that need to be investigated. So on behalf of the fire department and the city and the police department, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Would you do this in your home? How about this? And you certainly wouldn't do this. Then why would you do this? Careless smoking is the #1 cause of fire fatalities. You can protect your family and your home from fire. Visit GetYourButtOutside.com. Brought to you by the Minnesota State Fire Chiefs Association and the Minnesota Fair Plan.
Hey Tabor, my name is Randy. I go to Eastview Elementary School, and I'm wondering, when do you replace the fire hoses on the fire trucks?
Thanks for your question. We test the fire hoses annually, so that means they get tested each year. Now that things are getting a little bit warmer, we're going to start doing some hose testing because it gets done outside. Hose testing involves taking all of the hose off a piece of fire apparatus. So let's take an engine, for example. We're going to take every single piece of hose off that, charge it up to a certain pressure, and see if it can hold that pressure for about 5 minutes. If it does, then that hose can continue to be used. If it doesn't, that hose fails the fire test, it's going to get replaced by a new piece of hose. The other time that we might take a piece of hose out of service is if we're using it on a fire ground, for example, and we notice a leak or something like that, then we'll get rid of that hose. Depending on how bad the hose is damaged, we might give it to somebody else, like the Parks Department, to use for filling up water trucks or something like that. Otherwise, we'll cut the couplings off and throw that hose away. Thanks for your question.
Everybody, it's me, Scratch the Fire Dog, 'cause I like to scratch out of the fires. And hey, slow down here in front of the fire station. Can't you see I'm doing the show? Hey, I got a bone to pick with you out there, everybody. You know, my good buddy Jay O'Connell, I don't know what he's been doing, but he's told me that there's not just the one fire station here. He's told me that there's 4 fire stations, so I couldn't believe it. So I decided to come down here and talk to somebody and see exactly what is going on. So let's go inside and, hey, I think my buddy Todd is in here too and can get this thing straightened up. Hey, Todd, how you doing?
Hey, Scratch, what brings you out here?
Well, Todd, I'm in a bit of a quandary. That's a tough word for a dog to say. Hey, I thought that there was only one fire station, and for some reason I read somewhere, somebody told me, it's probably that Jay O'Connell fella, you can't trust him. He told me that there were 4 stations, and I went, poo, phooey. There is only one, isn't that right?
No, that's incorrect. There's actually 4 stations in the city of Lakeville.
You're kidding, Todd, I don't believe it.
No, I'm serious. Here, let me show you.
Hey, are you sure you haven't been drinking the Kool-Aid too with Jay?
Well, I do drink Kool-Aid with Jay once in a while, but I don't think that impedes my knowledge of the 4 stations that we have in Lakeville.
Oh, but so there really are 4?
Yeah, if you look at this brochure we have down at the Lakeville station, if you look on the back here, we've got 4 stations with addresses on it.
Oh, well, cool. Well, why don't I love to see these stations, so why don't you hand that to me and I'll go and check these things out for myself.
Well, there you go.
Hey, appreciate the help, Todd.
Hey, no problem. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. I'm out of here. Let's find those other stations. Look here, everybody. I've left the station number 1, which I used to think was the only station. And look behind me. It says fire station number 2. Gasp. Shocked, unbelievable, and inside of that fire station, there's rigs, there's a bunch of equipment for fighting fires. I can't believe it. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. So hey, we've got the 1, we've got the 2, let's check out the 3 and the 4 fire stations. Let's go. Oh, we got the 1, we got the 2, and now we got the 3 fire stations. Oh, can you believe it? We got the 1, the 2, and 3, and this is the lovely architecture of fire station number 3 that's located just south of the Fleet Farm. Yeah, I like the Fleet Farm, but look at this place too. Oh, look at those cool roofs, and even it's got some nice landscape. Oh, so guys, can you believe it? 1, 2, and the 3 fire stations. Oh, there's only 1 left, so let's head out to fire station 4. Woo! My voice changed. Hey, let's go to that 4. Great. Hey, here we go. I'm gonna make the turn. Hey, here we go. Here's the fire station. Hey, this is pretty good. Hey, here we go. Oh, better watch where I'm going. Hey, we started with the 1. We went to 2, went to 3, and now we're here at the station number 4. I can't believe it. The city of Lakeville has 4 fire stations. Oh, this is incredible. So we got the 1, we got the 2, we got the 3, we got the 4, and oh, I do owe an apology to my good friend Jay O'Connell. I didn't know there were 4 fire stations, and this one is located off of Ipava and 185th. Oh, this is so great. I gotta say I'm sorry to my good buddy Jay. I should have known that he knew what he was talking about. I said he had to drink the Kool-Aid, but he's a great guy. So, folks, until next time, this is a Scratch the Fire Dog, because I like to scratch out the fire, saying, we'll see you next time! It's windy up on the top of the hill here. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody! Walter Kidde Portable Equipment of North Carolina announces the recall of about 167,000 Kidde extra-large fire extinguishers. The pressurized cylinders in the recalled fire extinguishers could lose pressure and fail to operate. In the event of a fire, this failure could put a consumer and property at risk. These extinguishers were sold at department, home, and hardware stores nationwide from October 2007 through April 2008 for about $35. Consumers should immediately inspect the pressure gauge. If it points to the red zone, contact Kidde to receive a free replacement extinguisher. If the gauge is not in the red zone, but you have questions about an extinguisher within the listed model numbers, please contact Kidde for additional information. Consumers can get additional information by contacting Kidde at 888-345-4407 or visit the firm's website at www.kidde.com. Maytag Corporation of Newton, Iowa announces the recall of about 1.6 million Maytag, Gen Air, Amana, Admiral, Magic Chef, Performa by Maytag, and Crosley brand refrigerators. An electrical failure in the relay, the component that turns on the refrigerator's compressor, can cause overheating and pose a serious fire hazard. These refrigerators were sold at department and appliance stores and by home builders nationwide from January 2001 through January 2004 for between about $350 and $1,600. Consumers should immediately contact Maytag to determine if their refrigerator is included in the recall and to schedule a free in-home repair. For more information, contact Maytag toll-free at 866-533-9817 or visit the firm's website at www.repair.maytag.com. Mad Dog Concepts of New York, New York announces the recall of about 25,000 Tony Hawk boys pajama sets. This sleepwear fails to meet the federal children's sleepwear flammability standard and poses a risk of burn injury to children. These pajamas were sold at Kohl's department stores nationwide from September 2008 through October 2008 for about $30. For additional information, contact Mad Dog Concepts toll-free at 888-623-3640. Dick's Sporting Goods of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania announces the recall of about 6,700 Field & Stream dual-burner camp stoves. Gas could flow at a rate that would produce higher than expected flames. Rainwater in the burners can also prevent proper ignition and allow gas to build up and ignite unexpectedly. These stoves were sold at Dick's Sporting Goods stores nationwide and on the firm's website from January 2008 to October 2008 for between $100 and $120. For additional information, contact Dick's Sporting Goods toll-free at 888-837-1380 or visit the firm's website at www.dickssportinggoods.com.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of On Call. If you have questions, comments, or an idea, feel free to give us a call at 952-985-4700, or if you'd like to send in a question for our new segment, use the email address or the mailing address on your screen. Thanks for joining us. All fire units are clear.